Vast and ever-changing, Europe's living waters shape much of the continent and give life to some incredible species. Europe's oceans contain some of the world's biggest beasts and extraordinary hunters. There are huge wetlands with surprising creatures, amazing exotic predators, and remarkable animals that have returned to the same beaches for millions of years. Follow Europe's living waters, and you'll find wildlife as rich and vibrant as anywhere on the planet. The story of Europe's living waters begins in the continent's high places. Meltwaters from the highest snow-capped peaks feed some of the greatest rivers. Europe's living waters grow and spread like a network of arteries across the continent and provide the lifeblood to an extraordinary amount of wildlife. On their relentless downward journey, streams and rivers have carved through all of Europe's greatest landscapes, forming gorges, lakes, and wetlands. Seas and oceans have sculpted a coastline of endless variety. Wildlife has adapted to utilize all these habitats. No river is too fast flowing. No resource is left untapped. No niche unfilled. From narrow mountain gorges to the deepest, wildest oceans. There is a creature that links Europe's wild oceans and the far reaches of one of its most dramatic rivers. The Risa River lies above the Arctic Circle in northern Norway. It's autumn, when powerful storms can turn the Risa River into a raging torrent. Just as an incredible fish is about to complete an epic journey. These Atlantic salmon have spent most of the year feeding at sea. But they are hardwired to return now to this Arctic mountain river to spawn. They must fight the force of the river all the way, powering up waterfalls that can be 4 meters high. During their migration, the male's jaw elongates into a hook, creating a specialized weapon. Once they've fought their way to the spawning grounds, the battle to breed begins. females dig 1 or 2 egg pockets in the gravel riverbed. Eggs and sperm are released into these pockets simultaneously. But the supreme efforts of some males may have been in vain. Two types of male salmon stalk the spawning grounds, and one hasn't made the arduous journey. These tiny salmon are precocious par, and they live in the river. They may be small, but they have matured early and rely on cunning, not fighting, to breed. Sneaking around in the background, they dive in to fertilize the eggs at any opportunity. Are effectively a genetic insurance policy, providing another very different option for spreading the family genes. Heading relentlessly downstream, Europe's living waters flow through massive tracts of mountain forest. As the terrain eases, rivers calm and widen, attracting many animals to their banks. The Eastern Carpathians are one of the wildest, most biodiverse corners of Europe. Living at the junction of Poland, Slovakia, and Ukraine are most of Western Europe's animal species, including an industrious rodent that increases the biodiversity of the continent's living waters like nothing else. Seldom seen during the day, signs of its handiwork are clearly visible. Beavers are incredible animal architects. They create unique habitats in vast clearings filled with ponds and water channels. Living off bark and shoots, they are constantly repairing, improving, and expanding their habitat. They are perfectly designed for a semi-aquatic life. Their tiny, dexterous front legs are for feeding. Remarkable scaly tails and powerful webbed feet are for swimming. And whilst gnawing through tree trunks and branches wears down teeth, beavers regenerate just like fingernails. In a couple of years, a family of beavers will transform the gentlest of woodland streams into a vast network of ponds and channels. This provides beavers safer passage to foraging areas. And it also triggers a cascade of biodiversity. Light-loving plants colonize the new clearings. plankton in the water bloom, allowing other aquatic life to flourish. Deer come in to drink and feed in the clearings, which in turn brings in hungry predators. Foxes use beaver dams and bridges to aid their hunts. At 30 kilos, an adult beaver is a big meal for a fox. A splash of its tail alerts the other beavers to the danger. Smaller beaver ponds provide an ideal habitat for an amphibian rare in much of Europe. 17 centimeters long and slightly ungainly on land, great crested newts migrate to their breeding ponds in spring. The females don't look remarkably different from other varieties of newt. It is the males that give this species their name, with their jagged, prehistoric-looking crests, which they grow especially for the breeding season. Males show them off in an elaborate courtship display. If she's impressed, the female picks up a neat package of sperm from her suitor using her cloaca. Her eggs are fertilized inside this reproductive organ. Selecting specific aquatic plants, females choose a leaf on which to deposit a single egg. She then folds the leaf around it, sealing it shut with a special mucus. It's a process she may repeat 10 times a night. This remarkable construction prevents eggs being eaten by predators. And amazingly, it protects embryonic offspring from the sun's potentially fatal ultraviolet rays. Europe's living waters host a plethora of other unique animal engineers. Creatures like the lamprey that make stone nests at the bottom of rivers. Or mammals like the busy and territorial water vole. They dig burrows with multiple entrances, allowing them to patrol their ranges, access feeding grounds, and escape predators. But lurking just below the surface is an even more remarkable home builder. The only arachnid in the world that lives underwater. The diving bell spider has fine hairs on its legs and abdomen that trap bubbles of air. But this silver sheen is not simply a thing of beauty. It's an ingenious life support system. Nestled in an aquatic plant, it builds a web and transfers air bubbles onto it. It goes to and from the surface until it's created a habitable space. And this is not just an air tank. It acts like a fish's gill, extracting dissolved oxygen from the water and dispersing carbon dioxide the spider breathes out. Once built, the diving bell gives the spider two big advantages. It cuts down visits to the surface, thus avoiding predators. And it allows the spider to stay amongst the weeds and hunt. Large fangs give the damselfly larva no chance. On the other side of the continent is the Rio Tagus. At 1,000 kilometers long, it's Spain's longest river. As it descends from mountainous central Spain, the Tagus flattens out until it hits limestone bedrock. Here, Europe's living waters have carved out a remarkable wildlife sanctuary, Monfragüe National Park. And it's home to a creature with a serious PR problem. In the arid lands of southern Spain, unfortunate livestock often provide food for scavengers. And vultures are particularly adept at taking advantage. Spain is home to 95% of Europe's vultures. The smaller Egyptian vultures are often the first at a new carcass. They like to pick up small morsels, like the eyes, before the bigger, stronger black vultures arrive and rip open the carcass. Griffons are the most common vulture here, but wait for some time before deciding if it's safe to feed. Then they pile in, en masse, going for the muscle and guts. In the race to feed at a carcass, vultures will consume up to 20% of their own body weight in a few minutes. They may be quarrelsome, but these creatures are much misunderstood and vital to a healthy ecosystem. Their stomachs can digest everything from solid bone to anthrax, which makes them recyclers, sanitizers, and undertakers, all rolled into one. But once in the air, vultures are also birds of surprising beauty. They are some of the most graceful flyers. And can spend up to 8 hours a day in flight, looking for food. Vultures can travel hundreds of kilometers a day at altitudes of up to 6,000 meters. Griffon vultures are masters of updrafts and air currents. But perhaps most surprising is that these much maligned birds are remarkably good parents. In Monfragüe, large colonies of griffon vultures nest in the cliffs above the river. Devoted, monogamous parents take it in turns to tend just one egg. Chicks hatch after 2 months. One parent will watch over the chick constantly for the first few weeks, whilst the other provides copious amounts of regurgitated meat. These birds have also developed some pretty vulture-esque strategies for dealing with predators. The nest is kept as foul-smelling as possible. And a vulture will projectile vomit its corrosive stomach contents at anything coming too close. All this attentiveness does pay off. Half of all yearling vulture chicks survive to adulthood. And these magnificent birds can live up to 50 years. As Europe's living waters wind relentlessly toward the sea, they grow and change in character and pace. At over 2,800 kilometers, no river in Europe is bigger than the Danube. It passes through 10 countries between the Black Forest in Germany and the Black Sea in Romania. This is the Amazon of Europe. Just before its waters flow into the sea, it spreads and slows to create the biggest wetland in Europe. This is the Danube Delta Biosphere Reserve. At over 5,000 square kilometers, it's a living museum of biodiversity. Found here are 30 different types of ecosystem. More than 300 species of bird. And over 3,500 other animal species. From frogs to the wild horses that roam the grasslands, sandwiched between the lakes and marshes. In spring, snowmelt and heavy rains upstream can raise the water level by 0.5 meter in a single day. It's the older mares that know best how to navigate the flooded wetlands and find food. Bringing up the rear, stallions watch their harems closely, because when the mares are in season, it's a battle to keep them. The victor's foals are born the following spring. It can be a nervous time for the herd, because the Danube Delta is home to a surprising predator. The golden jackal is more usually associated with Africa. Omnivorous and highly adaptable, they are now slowly expanding into Europe from Central Asia and the Middle East. A mated pair of jackals will do almost everything together. They synchronize their hunting behavior, often driving prey towards their partner. Here, the jackals have adapted to their semi-aquatic home and developed a taste for carp. These bottom-feeding fish thrive amongst the algal blooms and often bask on the surface of these oxygen-starved waters, gulping in air. As water levels rise and fall, casualties are stranded in the smaller ponds. Scavengers as much as hunters, jackals are often drawn to food by the behavior of birds who spotted it first. This pair has pups to feed. Typically, a lactating female will hang back in cover, leaving it to the male to be bold. Golden jackal pups rely on their mother's milk until they are around 8 weeks old. So right now, the mother needs lots of fuel in order to feed her litter. But a dead carp can also serve as a launch pad for another, much smaller predator. In spring, the sound of the delta is dominated by breeding amphibians. Marsh frogs are voracious hunters and Europe's largest native frog. They'll attack anything they can fit in their mouth. As damsel and dragonflies emerge from beneath the waters, they provide rich pickings for athletic frogs. But here, hunter can quickly become prey. Some of the most effective hunters in the delta are the storks, herons, and great white egrets. Stalking slowly through the shallows, egrets use their slender, sharp bills like daggers. Narrow vision helps them stare down their bill and target prey. It's just a small fish, for now. As the lilies and irises bloom, so birds arrive to breed in the delta. Flocks of dunlin feed on the sandbanks in the middle of coastal lagoons. Avocets wade through the shallows, scything their bills through the water to catch crustaceans and insects. Whilst white and Dalmatian pelicans nest among the reeds close to the Black Sea. Flight is energy sapping for one of the world's heaviest flying birds. Nevertheless, adults regularly depart from their nesting sites to feed elsewhere in the delta. As the thermals build in the middle of the day, pelicans form giant flocks, circling higher and higher before gliding off to find happier hunting grounds. Pelicans are unique, but they're not the most unusual predator here. The ancient Greek city-state of Histria was finally abandoned in the 7th century. Its ruins now sit above a coastal lagoon. The nooks and crannies of this remarkable archaeological site are perfect for one of the region's most exotic predators. Dice snakes thrive here, hibernating and laying their eggs within the walls of the ruined city. And at Histria, excellent hunting grounds are close at hand. But this snake has no interest in ground squirrels, because this snake is a fish hunter. In spring, they make the journey from the ruins to the brackish lagoon every week or so to hunt gobies hiding on the bottom. The water is often murky, but dice snakes use their incredible sense of smell to zero in on their prey. They hunt for up to 10 minutes at a time. A valve in their nose and an ingenious twisted gut keeps the water out. A moment's rest on the surface, and the hunt continues. Dice snakes are classed as non-venomous, but it's been discovered recently that a gland in their mouth secretes a potent neurotoxin, which seals the goby's fate. From the edge of the Danube Delta to the rugged inlets of Western Scotland, a myriad of unusual life can be found along Europe's coastline. Life that has become accustomed to powerful currents and battering waves, and that has adapted to periods of wet and dry. The United Kingdom sees some of the most variable tides in the world. Here, remarkable creatures embrace a life of almost constant change. In Scottish lochs, thousands of tiny flame shells have transformed the seabed. They glue together stones and bits of shell to make a nest. Collectively, this builds a huge, unique reef, supporting hundreds of other species. Elsewhere, weird, tree-like sea cucumbers rhythmically pull plankton from the water. In rock pools on the south coast of England, scavenging spider crabs disguise themselves with seaweed to evade predators. And anemones stun tiny prey with their toxic tentacles. These animals in disguise get extra food thanks to a mutually beneficial arrangement with algae. The anemone gets sugars and oxygen as the algae photosynthesizes. The algae are given exposure to sunlight, a safe haven, and an amazing form of biological protection. Their ghostly glow under ultraviolet light is due to a protein the anemone produces that protects algae from the sun's harmful rays, allowing the anemone to thrive in the shallows. But one of the highlights of this tidal sideshow is usually ignored. Scraping a living off the rocks, this tenacious aquatic snail really comes to life at night when the tide is out. When limpets head out to graze. Their teeth are some of the strongest equipment in the animal kingdom. They are fixed to the radula, a rasping tongue that harvests algae like a whirling wrecking ball. These limpets anchor back onto their home scar before the tide comes in or dawn breaks. And during the day, they need to hold on tight to this safe haven because they have one formidable adversary. Oyster catchers are limpet specialists. The slightest touch causes a limpet to suck itself down onto the rock with incredible force. But this oyster catcher has worked out a method of limpet removal. Its beak is built for hammering. Attacking different sides of the shell in turn breaks the seal. And provides breakfast. Two great oceans and 4 major seas pound the shores of Europe. The warm waters of the Mediterranean are where Europe and Africa collide. Its waters and shores are full of surprises. Living here are Europe's only wild primates. Vast flocks of flamingos. And in southern Spain, a rather unusual and ungainly resident. Color changing and slow walking, only one species of reptile in the world has roving eyes like these. This is the Mediterranean chameleon. And it's a very cunning hunter. A chameleon's body is tall and slim, designed to cast a shadow that looks more like a leaf or a stick than a predatory reptile. They can be cannibalistic, but mostly chameleons eat insects like bees or grasshoppers. And they catch them like nothing else on the planet. A chameleon's tongue can be as long as its body and flies out of its mouth in 1/16th of a second. That's fast enough to hit a fly on the wing. The tongue can capture and reel in prey about half of the chameleon's weight. A hapless grasshopper is easy pickings. On the other side of the Mediterranean, one species has been making a pilgrimage to the beaches of Cyprus for millions of years. Green turtles are incredible navigators, thanks to an inbuilt compass. It is thought that females remember the exact magnetic signature of the beach on which they were born, returning to the spot as adults to lay their eggs. Eggs are buried deep to deter predators. After 2 months of incubation, the hatchlings emerge. Their epic journey begins. If they make it through the trials that await them, they'll swim tens of thousands of kilometers in their long lifetimes. For this species, breeding is a numbers game. It's true that only 1 in 1,000 will make it from egg to adult. But hundreds of nests are dug into Cypriot beaches, and each contains over 100 eggs. And if they beat the odds, a green turtle can live 100 years, returning again and again to the same beach to launch a new generation. Dotted across the continent's vast waters are some fantastic isolated habitats. Sanctuaries for marine mammals and seabirds to breed and feed. Then in the mid-Atlantic, there's a wildlife outpost unique among Europe's living waters. 1,500 kilometers from mainland Portugal, the Azores are the westernmost outpost of Europe. These volcanic islands rise 2,000 meters from the ocean floor, creating an ecosystem that feeds everything from tiny corals to the continent's biggest beasts. Sperm whales live permanently off the Azores. Other marine predators are seasonal opportunists. As the waters around the Azores warm in summer, the fish population explodes, which draws pods of Atlantic spotted dolphins from the other side of the ocean to hunt. Using echolocation, they emit up to 200 sound pulses a second, enabling them to identify tiny fish 100 meters away. And this pod have found their quarry. Circling this shoal of mackerel at high speed, the dolphins corral it into a tight bait ball. Then drive it towards the surface. Taking it in turns to pick off the panicking fish. And there's another predator waiting in the wings. Quarries shearwaters. As the bait ball rises to the surface, they attack. In furious competition, these avian dive bombers turn into underwater flying machines in pursuit of their quarry. It's a feeding frenzy. In a matter of minutes, the shoal, tens of thousands strong, is decimated. A scene that will be repeated throughout the summer. Streams, rivers, and seas have shaped the continent. Wildlife thrives above, below, and beside Europe's living waters. From mountain streams to the Atlantic Ocean. Conditions change constantly, creating amazing watery niches, which has driven creatures to develop some extraordinary adaptations. Birds that work in tandem with dolphins. Predatory spiders that live underwater. And rodents that create vast and complex habitats from the smallest of streams. To discover Europe's richest, most exotic and surprising wildlife, seek out its living waters.